Welcome to the Madison Miller podcast. Today's guest is our regular when it comes to big time horse racing, and it's none other than Mr. Jeff Byrnes. How are you doing on this Thursday morning?
Good morning, Madison. Doing really well, and looking forward to a very unique Belmont Stakes on Saturday.
Yes, it is very unique, and we touched on this last time you were on when we did Preakness. Explain to us the situation with the Belmont and why it's in Saratoga this year.
So the Belmont Stakes is going to be at Saratoga not only in this year, 2024, but also next year in 2025. As right now, as we speak, Belmont Park is undergoing significant renovations at the racetrack. So what's going on is that as we speak, they're tearing down the grandstands and building a brand new one. They're also installing a brand new synthetic surface to include possible year-round racing at Belmont Park. So basically a fourth surface to go with this dirt course and two turf courses. And they're also installing a brand new infield. So they're building a tunnel with parking lots. And basically what's going on, Belmont Park is being renovated for the first time since 1968. So long overdue. Basically, if you look at the building, while it's very prestigious and a beautiful racetrack, it definitely needed the upgrades. So right now they're just redoing Belmont Park. It's going to look very new, very beautiful. The Belmont should return to Belmont, New York, probably in the year 2026, and also with the goal of hosting a Breeders' Cup there once again. Belmont Park hasn't hosted the Breeders' Cup since 2005, and they certainly want to get the Breeders' Cup back to New York. So Belmont is undergoing renovations right now, and hopefully in the future they'll be back and look better than ever.
All right, yeah. Looking forward to when Belmont is reopened. So that's crazy that it took this long to do renovations there. So Belmont Stakes from Saratoga this year. All right, so we have 10 horses in the field as of now, and the one hole is Seize the Gray. Dwayne Lucas is the trainer. Seize the Gray, if I'm not mistaken, was in the Derby. Am I correct?
So he wasn't in the Derby. He's actually your Preakness winner from 3 weeks ago.
Right, he was in the Preakness.
Yeah, he did run on Kentucky Derby Day. He actually won the Pat Day Mile on the Kentucky Derby undercard. So, technically he is going for his own unique little triple crown because he did technically run on Derby Day. He won the Preakness, and here he is back in the Belmont. So 3 races in 5 weeks. This will also be his 6th start of the year, and he's looking for his 3rd win in a row. With his last 2 races have both been uniquely different in ways, because the Pat Day Mile, he was a 1-turn mile at Churchill. He came off the pace that day and chased the speed. Well, in the Preakness, he actually was on the lead, and basically his jockey Jamie Torres basically walked the dog on the front end, and didn't allow horses like Mystic Dan and Catching Freedom to ultimately get him at the end. But Seize the Gray, he is in post 1. He is back for the Belmont Stakes. Trainer Dwayne Lucas has said he's working really well and is training really well coming into this race. This will be his 6th start of the year. I do ultimately worry. I was worried a couple weeks ago when I said that the amount of races he's run in a short period of time to catch up to him. It hasn't so far. But the big disadvantage for him on Saturday is going to be there is more speed in this race than there was in the Preakness. I think a horse like Dornoch, we'll get to in a little bit, it has a lot of speed. Could that ultimately be his undoing? The post 1 does worry me a bit, but obviously you learn with a horse trainer like Dwayne Lucas, you can never count a horse like Seize the Great out.
Right, so, and by the way, 8-1 the win. Or is 8-1 the morning line? I think I'm looking at the current odds right now. So Seize the Gray's 8-1 to win this race. All right, next up is Resilience. We saw Resilience a couple of weeks ago. Bill Mott's the trainer. Let's talk about Resilience.
So Resilience wheels back at the Belmont Stakes. Had this race been a mile and a half, I don't think he would be in this field, but the fact that it's a mile and a quarter this year at Saratoga, I think ultimately is what led trainer Belmont to run him in this race. He did run in the Kentucky Derby. He is the Wood Memorial winner, and that's how he qualified for the Derby. The Derby, he actually, returning for home, he was in front and was leading the race until Mystic Dan shoot up along the inside past him, and ultimately Resilience faded in the stretch. But he actually ran a much better than look 6th in the Kentucky Derby, and he was right there among the leaders all the way. And while he did fade and while he got tired a little bit late, maybe the mile and a quarter caught up to a little bit. He did have a very wide trip the whole way around. I think this is a very talented horse that the fact that Belmont is running it back in this race, I think, should speak a lot of volumes. He worked a very fast 4 furlongs and 48 flat at Saratoga just a couple days ago. So obviously he's fit and ready to go. Junior Alvarado, who's ridden for Belmont for a long time, is going to be aboard him in this race. The Blinkers have done a really he got the blinkers on for the Wood Memorial, and he won that race very easily. He ran a really good race in the Kentucky Derby, so he's coming into this race in really good form. I love his work pattern. I love the way he's been galloping over the Saratoga track. I think Resilience has a big shot on Saturday.
Yes, and Resilience is 10-1. And then number 3 is Mystic Dan. He is 5-1. That was your Kentucky Derby winner. And what chance do you give Mystic Dan to go 2 for 3 in the Triple Crown events?
I think he's got a big chance. And I think because it seems like the more he's been racing, the more he's been thriving. And with the Kentucky Derby, he got a very good ride from Brian Hernandez Jr., snuck him along the inside and won by a nose over a horse like Sierra Leone. But the Preakness days, he didn't have any pace to run into. He was a lot closer to the leaders early on, but Steve DeGray got away with really, really slow fraction. But ultimately, he couldn't catch him at the end. He has been training very well. Kenny McPeak has really liked the way he's been coming in. The mile and a quarter, this is a horse that probably, if it was at a mile and a half at Belmont Park, I don't know if he would have necessarily run. But given that it's a mile and a quarter this year at Saratoga, this is why he's running in this race today or on Saturday. But Mystic Danny, and especially thinking that there could be some rain in the forecast Saturday, and this is a horse that loves a sloppy racetrack, that loves it when the surface comes up muddy. So, he's going to get a lot more pace, I think, this time than he did in the Preakness. Could be a very similar trip that he has in the Kentucky Derby, which, ironically, he is saddlecloth number 3, just like he was at Churchill Downs. So, Mystic Dan, I think he's got a very good shot on Saturday.
I think he has a great chance, too. And he has a good trainer in Ken McPeak as well. He's done a good job. All right, the 4 horse is the Wine Steward. We have not seen the Wine Steward in any of the previous 2 races. Mike Maker is the trainer, and Wine Steward is 15-1 to win this race. Tell us about the Wine Steward.
So the Wine Steward, this is a newcomer to the Triple Crown Series. He's 3 for 6 in his racing career. He's never been worse than second in each of those 6 starts, and he has also been very consistent. He won his first 3 races. 2 of those 3 came against New York bred company. He was born in the state of New York, so he qualifies for New York bred races. His next 3 races, all in open company, he was second, including the Breeders' Futurity, a Grade 1 race for 2-year-olds at Keeneland last year. He was going to run in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, but he scratched out of the race because of, I believe, for an illness. He was off for a good period of time. He came back in the Lexington Stakes, where he finished second, being 3/4 of a length behind Encino, who was supposed to run the Kentucky Derby, but scratched, unfortunately. And then after the Lexington, they ultimately opted for the Peter Pan, as opposed to a race like the Preakness. The Peter Pan, he was second behind Antiquarian, which, wasn't my own days. He was the favorite, and it wasn't particularly the strongest field. So, honestly, it's a little surprising that he lost that day. I mean, I know his pedigree. He's by Vino Rosso, a Breeders' Cup Classic winner, which suggests maybe the mile and a quarter should be good for him. But he runs like a horse that maybe is more of like a miler / maybe like a sprinter type. Now, could he win this race? Sure. If he gets the right trip, if he gets the good pace to run into. Ultimately, I was a little surprised he opted for the Belmont Stakes as opposed to like the Grade 1 Woody Stevens, which is a 7-furlong sprint on the undercard of the Belmont Stakes at Saratoga. But he's a nice horse. He's a talented horse. It's just maybe to step up a competition could be a little bit too much for him on Saturday.
All right, you brought up Antiquarian, and Antiquarian is the 5 horse. Really good trainer in Todd Pletcher. Oh, he's got a good jockey, John Velasquez. He is 12-1. Tell us about Antiquarian.
So Antiquarian, this is the horse. This is the first of 3 for trainer Todd Pletcher in this race. John Velasquez and Pletcher have teamed up to win a lot of races in the past, including a couple Belmont Stakes. This horse is 2 for 4 in his career, including he actually won the Peter Pan over the Wine Steward last time out. That was at Aqueduct back on May 11th. and he has come into this race in really good form. He was before that win of the Peter Pan, he was sixth in the Louisiana Derby, in which he had all kinds of trouble at the start. He hit his head on the gate, he broke away slow, and he was still only finished sixth, being just a few lengths. But the trainer Todd Fletcher has consistently said that he thinks a mile and a quarter is going to be right up this horse's alley, and he's trained significantly well coming into the spot. The fact that John Velasquez opted for Antiquarian over a horse like Resilience, I think is a big endorsement for him. He did ride Resilience in the Wood Memorial, but he opted for Antiquarian today. His sire, Preservationist, was a grade stakes winner at a mile and a quarter. So definitely distance should not be a problem for him. I think, honestly, if this race were a mile and a half, I think he could have been actually my top pick. No lie. But given it's a mile and a quarter, I mean, considering that this is going to be another step up of competition for him, well, I do think that he is improving, and I do think he has a shot on Saturday. It's going to be tough for him to beat a couple of horses in here.
All right, but yeah, I actually think Antiquarian's a sleeper. Just throwing that out there. Next up is Door Notch, the 6-horse, 15-1 on the money line. Danny Gargan is the trainer. If I'm not mistaken, we did not see Door Notch in the previous 2 Triple Crown races, right?
So Dornock actually did run in the Kentucky Derby. He skipped the Preakness.
Right. It was Derby.
Yeah. So Dornock was 10th in the Kentucky Derby that day. He drew post position number 1, and he just got off to a nightmare start at the beginning. Got bounced around at the start and basically lost all chance. I mean, horses from post 1 generally don't do very well in the Derby, and especially considering when he had speed. And with his speed, he basically had to go right from jump. He didn't get off to the best start. And basically, it was over for him at the gate. So, right now, Dornock coming into the Belmont thinks is in tremendous form. And he's got very good speed. I think he's going to challenge a horse like Seize the Gray from the inside. I do think that the mile and a quarter distance should be right up his alley. Obviously, he did go wire to wire in the Grade 2 Fountain of Youth Stakes at Gulfstream Park. So he does have a lot of speed. Seize the Gray is going to be basically his only challenger. It's going to be very interesting to see what kind of fractions that he could set, because if he goes somewhere like around 24-48, Dornock is going to be in a very good position. So Luis Saez, I think he definitely knows what to do with him. Training Danny Gargan has really liked the way he's training coming into this race. He's fired a couple of really fast workouts the last few weeks, though. Dornock, I think he's going to run a lot better race than people think, and I think he has a chance on Saturday.
All right. 7 is Protective. Protective is 20-1, the longest shot on the board. It's another Todd Pletcher horse. Tell us about Protective.
So Protective is interesting because he has never won a race in his career. He is 0 for 4 in his racing career. He was second in his career debut back on July 22nd, all the way back last year at Saratoga. Then he didn't run again for 8 months. In fact, he didn't resurface until a 4th place finish at Tampa Bay Downs back on March 10th. And right from there, they ran him in the Wood Memorial, where he was 3rd behind Resilience at a big price. And instead of running him in a maiden race, maybe just to get a win under his belt, they ran him into Peter Pan Stakes, and he was 3rd behind Antiquarian and the Wine Steward. So the Connections are taking a big shot here, running him in the Belmont Stakes. And considering he's never won a race, but he has the pedigree to get the mile and a quarter. His sire, Medaglia d'Oro, was a tremendous stallion. Still is a tremendous stallion. So, and this horse to me, I think is up against it, particularly because he is from off the pace. While I do think he'll get something to chase, I just question whether he has enough class to really even get it done. Could he hit the board? Maybe, if certain things go his way, but it would be a shocker if he wins on Saturday.
I 100% agree. All right, the 8-horse I think is a sleeper too. Honor Marie, 12-1 on the money line. And Honor Marie's trainer is Whit Beckman. Let's talk about Honor Marie, who was in the Derby.
Yeah, Honor Marie, I really like this horse going into the Kentucky Derby. In fact, I picked him in my top 3, but in the Derby, if you go back and look at the start, he got pinballed by a couple of horses there and nearly lost the rider at the start. His jockey that day was Ben Curtis, who unfortunately isn't going to be aboard Anna Marie because of he unfortunately was in a training accident a few weeks ago. So Florent Giroux is going to be aboard him in this race for the first time. Florent Giroux, one of the best jockeys in the Midwest, particularly at Churchill Downs. So yeah, I think he's going to benefit from a shorter field. He needs to get away from the gates cleanly if he's going to have any chance. He is going to be among the horses in the back of the pack that is going to be needing pace to chase, but I think he will get. So with a cleaner trip, definitely with a better post, I think he definitely has a good chance for Saturday. I do have a concern with the possibility of a sloppy racetrack because he doesn't particularly handle a wet track very well. But I think he does have enough talent, and I think he has enough class to where he could overcome that if it does rain Saturday.
That's interesting. So next up is the favorite, Sierra Leone, who is in the 9-hole, 9-5 favorite. So just under 2-1. That's how big of a favorite Sierra Leone is. That's very surprising. I don't think Sierra Leone should be that big of a favorite. But here we are. Chad Brown's the trainer, and we saw Sierra Leone in the Derby. Let's talk about Sierra Leone.
So Sierra Leone, he's 3 for 5 in his career. He finished second in the Kentucky Derby, beating the nose behind Mystic Dan. And this horse really is just a few inches away from being undefeated. He lost by about a neck to Dornock in the Remsen Stakes back last year. Then he was second in the Kentucky Derby, beating the nose. So really, he's run really well in his 5 starts all the time. So I think he is going to be a well-deserved favorite for the Belmont Stakes. I think even if this race were a mile and a half, he would still be the favorite, and definitely would be a contender for the win. But he's trained really well coming into this race. He fired a really nice 49 flat workout just last week at Saratoga. His trainer Chad Brown has replaced his regular jockey Tyler Gaffalione with Flavian Pratt, who I think is actually a much bigger upgrade over Tyler Gaffalione. He wasn't particularly fond of the ride that Gaffalione gave to Sierra Leone in the Kentucky Derby. There was a little bit of controversy. There were some bumping down the stretch with the Japanese horse Forever Young. So Flavian Pratt is going to be aboard him this time. Pratt, I think, is going to keep him off the pace, trying to get him over to the inside to save some ground. But this is a horse that's good enough to where he can bop and wave through his way through traffic. Done it plenty of times in the past, including in the Toyota Bluegrass Stakes where he won, where basically he got off to a slow start and came from last to circle the field and win. He did win the Risen Star Stakes on a sloppy racetrack, which is something to keep in mind if this race does come up on a sloppy track on Saturday. So, well, I do think he is the class of the field. And personally, I think he's the best 3-year-old in the crop. Now, does it matter on Saturday? Not really, because you never know who can win. But I think he is the most talented 3-year-old of this class. It's gonna depend though if that class comes through on Saturday.
All right, I'm excited for Sierra Leone to see how Sierra Leone does. And the last horse, the 10 horse, is Mind Frame, 7-2 odds. So just over 2-1. So Mind Frame. Irad Ortiz Jr. is the jockey. Is a good jockey, and that's the last of the Todd Pletcher horses. Let's talk about Mind Frame.
So Mind Frame, this is probably the biggest wild card in the field, particularly because the Belmont Stakes is going to be his stakes debut. This is the first time he's running against stakes competition. He's only run twice in his career. His first run came on Florida Derby Day at Gulfstream Park, in which in a 7-furlong sprint, was slightly off the pace. Came on the outside, and he won going away and earned actually the fastest buyer speed figure of any horse in the 3-year-old crop. His second race came on the Kentucky Derby undercard very early on, in which on a sloppy racetrack, he went right to the front and he went wire to wire and he won that race by open length. So this is a very talented racehorse. My biggest question with him is it too much too soon? Because originally these connections, Todd Pletcher, Mike Rapoli, for Rapoli Stables and St. Elias, they were actually going to point Fierceness, the Kentucky Derby favorite, to the Belmont Stakes, but ultimately Fierceness is not going to run in the Belmont. He's actually going to be pointing to the Haskell in late July. So that's what the connections said there. This horse actually just last week outworked Fierceness, and we know how good Fierceness is. Obviously the 2-year-old champion, Breeders' Cup Classic winner, Breeders' Cup Juvenile winner. So The fact that Mind Frame has been outworking Fierceness, and the fact that he has shown this kind of talent, this horse is really good. But obviously, I said it's going to be a question of this is like too much too soon for him. Obviously, the post 10, he's going to have to overcome a wide trip. It would not surprise me if Ira Ortiz Jr. sends Mind Frame right from jump to try to get over to the inside and maybe save some ground. So if he runs back to the race he ran at Churchill Downs in particular, Mind Frame could be very tough here. But it's going to be a question of, does the lack of stakes experience or basically just the lack of competition that he faced could ultimately catch up to him? We'll see. But this horse is definitely a very good one.
All right, let's go to our favorite part, win, place, show. I can't wait for this. I can't wait to see where you're going to go here. So give us your pick for the Belmont.
So for my win, I know it's not going to be the greatest choice in the world, but I am going to take Sierra Leone. I really hope he's not the overwhelming favorite. I really hope the price comes down to him a little bit, but I just think with the smaller field, I think the jockey changed to Flavien Prat, and just the pace that he's going to be chasing into, I think he's very good enough to overcome all of that. And I think the 1.25 is going to be right up his alley, and Sierra Leone should definitely be much improved over the last month. And I think ultimately he can win this Belmont.
I'm going with Sierra Leone too. Yes, I think he's too big of a favorite right now. I think he should be more like plus 250, so that would be like 5-2. That's what I think the number should be for Sierra Leone, not 9-5, but I do think Sierra Leone will win for the reasons you said. How about your place pick? This is going to be interesting.
So for my place pick, I'm going to go with the 2, Resilience, because I think he is coming into this race in really good form. Belmont would not be putting him in this spot unless he truly thought, A, he had a chance to win, and B, just determines how fit he is right now. And Resilience is looking really good in the mornings. I think the 1.25 is going to be up his alley. So I'll take Resilience for my place.
My place pick, I'm going Mystic Dan. It's supposed to rain, and that's right up Mystic Dan's alley. So I'm going to go Mystic Dan for my place. And how about your show?
My show is Mystic Dan. I will pick him to finish third. He's in really good form right now, and obviously the money track, I think, could ultimately benefit him. It could help him even win on Saturday, and we've seen he can win at the 1.25 distance. I think ultimately that's actually the farthest that he wants to go. But the off track, I think, is certainly going to help him. I do worry a little bit about 3 races in 5 weeks, but he seems like he's going fine right now, and I think he's better than a lot of these horses in the field, so no reason to think that he runs another good race on Saturday.
All right, my show, I'm going with Honor Marie. I like Honor Marie. Has a lot of potential, and I think that either Honor Marie or Antiquarian, one of those 2 horses, I think, could get the show spot. But I'm going to go with Honor Marie, who is a good horse. 2 wins in 6 races, so let's go there.
Yeah, I like that pick. Honestly, Honor Marie would probably round out my superfecta, meaning I would probably put him in 4th. I think he is going to run a big race on Saturday. Just he has to overcome the gate, obviously. He has to overcome possibly a wide trip. But Honor Marie, I think, is going to run a big race on Saturday. And ultimately, I think I could definitely see a top 4 finish from him.
Yeah, I gave away my superfecta. Antiquarian would be my 4th pick if I did a superfecta, which I'm probably am going to take a shot at doing. I'm either going to do that or the trifecta. I love doing those. How about some undercard horses for Saturday?
So the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival, obviously it starts actually today and goes all the way through Sunday, but particularly on Saturday, you have the Grade 1 Metropolitan Handicap, which is a very important race. Basically almost for stallion and breeding rights. The Met Mile is some of the horses in there. You have last year's Preakness winner National Treasure for trainer Bob Baffert in that field. You also have the 2023 Breeders' Cup Classic winner White Avario in that field as well. So a couple of really standout horses in there. You also have the last year's Preakness runner-up Blazing Sevens, who is cutting back in distance for trainer Chad Brown. I think if he gets some pace to chase, I think Blazing Sevens could be in for a big upset chance. You also have the Maryland-bred Post Time for trainer Brittany Russell that also I think has a big chance in that field if he gets pace to chase. So the Met Mile's coming up as a very good field. the Grade 1 Ogden Phipps, going a mile and an eighth. That's Saratoga. You have last year's Breeders' Cup Distaff winner, Idiomatic, for trainer Brad Cox in there. I think she's running in tremendous form right now. If she wins that race, the Ogden Phipps, the connections are not ruled out, ultimately taking on the boys with her. So you could see her in a race like the Grade 1 Whitney, maybe at Saratoga later on this year if she wins this race. So she's in tremendous form. The 6th horse in that field, Raging Sea, for trainer Chad Brown. She's gotten progressively better as her racing career is going on. She's coming off a Grade 3 win and is stepping up big time in competition. So a lot of really good races on the Belmont undercard. So it should be a very fun day of racing on Saturday.
It is going to be a fun weekend in Belmont. And before we go, NBA Finals pick?
I'm going to take the Celtics in 6. I think, obviously, with Kristaps Porzingis, I believe, is coming back for this game tonight. So that's ultimately going to be a big boost for them. I think the depth of the Celtics bench, I think ultimately is going to be too much for Dallas. I think Dallas can make this a series, but ultimately I think Boston in 6.
I'm going Boston in 6 as well. I think Porzingis' return is massive. I thought long and hard about picking Dallas, but I'm like, you know what? I can't get too cute. Boston's been the best team all year, and they're getting one of their best players, probably their 3rd or 4th best player, depending on how you feel about him. I would say 4th best player because I still think Drew Holiday is a little bit better than Porzingis back. And I think that him coming back provides so much depth for Boston. And I think Boston in 6 is the pick, too. I think Luka and the Mavs could steal a couple. And it's going to be a fun series. I'm looking forward to it. And Kyrie Irving back in Boston, he's going to get heavily booed. And
yeah, that's going to be a rough scene for Kyrie when he gets back to Boston.
And same for Porzingis in Dallas. I think he's going to get booed, but not to the extent that Porzingis was booed back at MSG, right?
Oh, big time, yeah. It's, I mean, Porzingis, I think, is going to get a very big reaction when he returns to Dallas. Ultimately, this series has a lot of really, really intriguing storylines.
It does.
Yeah, between Kyrie returning to Boston and Porzingis coming back, Luka possibly going for his first NBA championship. And the thing about the Boston Celtics, to me, this is probably their best team since their last championship in 2008.
Yep.
So if they can't win it this year, I don't know if they're ever going to win it with Tatum with this tandem of Tatum and Brown. So I think the pressure is definitely on Boston to win it all.
Absolutely. I think they're under a lot of pressure, and I think in hockey, the Edmonton Oilers are under a ton of pressure despite being an underdog. I think Panthers in 6 in the Cup final, by the way. That is where I'm leaning. But that's not like definite yet. I need to think through it a little more for hockey. So, yeah, fun time today, and maybe we'll get you on before the Haskell. The Haskell's the end of July, right?
That is correct. It's towards the end of July. So we already know Fierceness is going to be running. It's July 20th, I believe. Yeah, July 20th. So yeah, Todd Fletcher is pointing Fierceness to the Haskell. You could also see Bob Baffert ship in Muth for Zandon Racing. The thing about Muth is he was supposed to run in the Preakness. He was the morning line favorite for the Preakness, but he had to scratch because of an illness. And obviously, with Baffert's continuing controversy with Churchill Downs, Muth was supposed to run in the Derby as well, but ultimately he couldn't enter because Baffert was banned from Churchill. So Muth is one of the most intriguing horses of this 3-year-old crop. He's a really good horse, and we could see him in the Haskell as well. So I know it's still early, about a month away, but a couple of really intriguing contenders for the Haskell.
Yeah, I'm excited. And the Haskell is close to us in about probably 40 minutes away, right? You would say is Oshaport's about that, maybe less?
From me, it's about a 40-minute drive. So.
Yeah, for me, it's about 42. It's just around there. So should be a fun summer of horse racing, and we'll hopefully have you on next month.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me on, Madison.
Absolutely.